it just hit me how easily we can turn our weaknesses into strengths. Life gets a lot more interesting when we pay attention, not just to ourselves, but to the people around us, the conversations, the moments, the lessons hidden inside ordinary life. This is Learn for 2.0. Hey there, welcome back to Learn for 2.0. I am Brandon DeVere, and thank you for sharing your time with me. I really do appreciate that. You know what? I've always thought that, I've always been interested in so many things, and I've always, been kind of conditioned and told like that, shiny object syndrome, and you need to be focused. Like you're just into too many things. Like you have too many interests, like to be focused. So you lack focus, and that was kind of I always viewed that as like a disadvantage. Like I was always at a disadvantage because I couldn't like focus on one thing. I am interested in a lot of things, like even people, right? Like with me, like you're in with me until you're out. Like you don't really have to work your way in. Like we can have a conversation. I'll talk to you right away, and I enjoy people. I enjoy learning new things. I enjoy all this stuff. But sometimes learning doesn't translate into actual like making money or whether it's anything like other than knowledge gained, right? Just because you learned it, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be like your input to learn it, or may not come back in a way like the output may not be a grand financial reward or something like that. So I've always been kind of felt like I was at a disadvantage a little bit because I've always been interested in so many things, and they're all across the board. Some are connected, some are not. But I'm always kind of interested in anything, and you see things like in the Think and Grow Rich, right? Napoleon Hill, specialized knowledge. One of the chapters in there is that the man who basically has specialized knowledge are the ones that are going to be successful because they're only focused on that one thing. And so again, like I've always thought for the longest time that was such like for me such a detriment to enjoy other things, enjoy multiple things, and be interested in multiple things. For example, like I look at one of my good friends, Tom. Tom and I met, I believe, in 2004. We became roommates. It was kind of an awesome story, really. The friend that I moved down to Las Vegas with, Tony, he worked with Tom at the golf store, and Tom and his roommates were moving out. Tom needed a place. Tom calls me and says, "Hey man, I heard you got a room open." And I said, "Yeah, man, you want to come by and take take a look?" He goes, "No, I'll just take it." And since then, like we've been, best of friends. I was in his wedding out in Ohio. Have conversations. We try to talk as much as possible. He lives, out of state now, and he actually moved to Washington for a while. But uh, he told me back in 04, 05, he's like, "I want to work at Costco. I want to work at Costco." And I was like, man, even at that time, like 20 years ago, I was sitting here thinking to myself, man, that's awesome. He knows exactly what he wants to do. Regardless of what it is that he wants to do, that's what he wants to do. And he knows it. And that's his thing. And now here he is. I think he may be a store manager, warehouse manager or something. But whatever it was, he ended up going, he wanted to work at Costco, didn't work at Costco in Las Vegas, moved to Washington, ended up getting working in another golf store up there, and then he moved on, and he was able to get into Costco, and now he's moved to another state in a new role or a newer role in Costco, and he just knew that that's what he wanted to do, and like that's like specialized knowledge to me. Like he knew exactly what it is that he wanted to do. Not that he doesn't have any other interests, but he just knew that, and it also reminds me of another friend of mine, Eric, who we grew up together. We were best friends since I think we met in T-ball, like 4 years old or something like that. He lived, we'd ride our bikes to each other's houses. He just lived right down the street, but he was always into like health and fitness, and that was what he was into. That's what he wanted to do, and that's what he's doing to this day. He went to school for it, did all that. His interest was that, and he gained this specialized knowledge, and he's still in the health, very fit, one of the fittest people I know. Not like he's a big like bodybuilder or anything, but he's one of the people that I know that is the most in tune with their body, for sure, as far as what he needs and things like that. But he's not necessarily in the fitness world, but he is in the health world, and that's what he wanted to do, and that's what he continued to do. So for a long time, like I said, I just thought that, man, I'm not. like how can I focus? How can I focus? And then people like throw around like ADHD, or you're on the spectrum, or you have this or you have that, like all those things, which my mannerisms probably would lead to that as well. But it was always looked at like a negative, and it was a negative that I was into to multiple things. Oh, you're just chasing the next shiny object. No, I'm interested in that. And the way, having that specialized knowledge in that one thing that you do, that's one of the things that my brain just it doesn't really work that way, right? So when I was listening to a podcast today, back to, I was telling you a couple episodes ago, Francis from over at Foodie Fit, he recommended the guy by the name of Dan Koe, and so I was like, you know what, I'll go ahead and I'm gonna listen to that today on my walk. Typically walk to the gym every morning, get a workout, and then I'll walk back. But I'll listen to the podcast on the way there and back. And like the first one that he's talking about is your interest being a superpower, and I was like, what? Like, well, okay, well, this is interesting. And I had a complete epiphany on this about how what I viewed as a weakness could now be a superpower. And he was talking about how he's the same way. Like he has trouble finding people that are in having the same idea, like that he's interested in so many things, that it looks like he's not really interested in anything, I guess is the best way to put it. But he said he feels that that's a superpower because he'll be able to adapt in different ways and he'll be able to basically accelerate at a faster speed than someone who is only interested in one thing, trying to learn, something new. And that was like, it really hit me today, because it was just like, oh wow, this guy is like, he's into a bunch of different things. He rattled off all the different things, and as he's talking about them, different things that some of them that I've done, like I've built courses, I've done websites and funnels and all that stuff, and writing. I wrote a book, like all these different things that I'm interested in. Like for me, I feel like I say this often, and tragedy is probably too harsh of a word, but I believe one of our biggest tragedies is that most of us will never really find out what we're really good at. For like someone like me, that I have a bunch of different interests, I'm also kind of searching, like, hey, maybe you're good at this thing that you've never even heard of, something from across the world that has never even been introduced to you. You have no idea that it exists. Like I use AI all the time to be like, tell me something that I've never even heard of before. Like, there's people out there that when I was working here at the Four Seasons, there was a guy that came in all the time, and I found out what he did, and he was the main toilet paper supplier to MGM Properties. Like, there's so many things out there. Like growing up, it was like, you're going to be a teacher, like a school teacher. You're going to be a doctor, dentist, or a small business owner. There wasn't really anything else in my small town, and it was just because we weren't exposed to it. So that's part of the reason that I have this drive to be like, okay, that's interesting. Let me try that. Let me try that. Let me try that. And for the longest time, like I've said multiple times in this, is that I thought it was a detriment. And Dan Koe, like this first time I'm listening to him, I go check him out if that's something that interests you. But it was a real eye opener to me, and another perspective change. Just like the woman in the van, this was a perspective change, that what I viewed as a weakness, just with one sentence, he was able to be like, hey, that's not a weakness. That is your superpower. And so it also got me thinking, like, what do people think that they're not good at, that is actually their superpower? And if you've heard me talk before about, I learned this from a book a long time ago, the strategy mindset. And what it talked about was that, it's tough to do like disc profile or a SWOT test. A SWOT test is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The challenge is with those is that you yourself are the one grading yourself. So often you can think that you're good at something and you're really not. You just like to do it. But there's other things that you think that you're not good at that you are good at. So when you ask for like outside perspective, it's much easier to find out if you're really good at those things. And so that kind of that was a weakness that now I look at it as a strength. For if I need to learn something, maybe I do have an advantage over other people that are so tunnel vision on the one thing that they want, as they have an advantage over me in going just focused on that one thing. So if there's any type of weakness that you have, that you think that you have, or that, that a mindset shift. I know this isn't a motivational type show, so that's not what it's about. It's more about like looking in, paying attention, and going, okay, well, maybe I'm good at that. So I would definitely recommend going checking out Dan Koe. It's DanKoe. First time I ever heard of him. Thank you, Francis, for the recommendation. I listened to 2 podcasts today, and I'll probably go back for more, just because I like the way that he talks, the way that he thinks, and in some of the stuff that he's doing going forward. So with that, I will catch you guys on the next one. Have a great one.